Are you looking for a new leg and glute workout that can be done on one piece of equipment that's faster paced and is highly effective? If you answered yes, yes, and yes, this video is for you. Now, we're going to be working on a cable station. The reason I love cables so much is because it gives you that freedom, it gives you that range of motion that you would get from free weights, but you get variable resistance. So you're able to change where the load or the weight is coming from. So for example, if you're used to doing dumbbell deadlifts and you're pulling from the floor, if we change that deadlift to pulling from a 45-degree angle or pulling from hip height, we are introducing what's called a novel stimulus to the muscle, meaning it is something new that the muscle has not adjusted to yet. And this can equate to gains. Now, as a quick reminder, don't be a machine monopolizer. So if someone is waiting on it, just step away and come back. You can always do one of the supersets, for example, add it to your current routine. What I like to do is just go in when the gym is not crowded at all and just knock out the workout. The whole workout should take you, depending on how much recovery you take, how heavy you go, somewhere around 30 to 45 minutes. Without further ado, let's get on the cable and train. Our first superset is a feet elevated deadlift, followed by a toe elevated reverse pull through. Now you'll see I've got a couple of 25-pound plates and I've placed them in front of the cable machine. You really want to make sure, depending on the type of plate, depending on the floor, that these plates stay put and do not slide. So make sure of that before you get started. I'm using 2 single handles, but you can use a double D handle if you'd like. The reason for elevating the feet here is that I'd like to stay relatively close to the cables, and I don't have that range of motion that I want when I add the handles. So elevating the feet gives you a little bit more range of motion. When you set up for this exercise, place your feet about 1.5 times shoulder width, and I like to think about really pushing my body weight through the heels. Grasp the handle with neutral grip, and deadlift is a total body exercise. So not only will you hit your quads, hamstrings, and glutes, but you'll also hit upper back and shoulders as you stabilize. As you come up out of the deadlift, push through the heels, think about pushing your knees out, keeping your core tight, and you want to think about breathing out as you come up, and then mid-rep as you descend. Really push the weight through the heels, push those knees out. Go nice and slow. This is going to help with that mind-muscle connection. It's going to help you think about what you want to focus on as far as which muscles you want to move the weights with. Next, we're moving on to a toe elevated reverse pull through. Now you're going to place the ball of the foot on each plate. And the reason for elevating the toes is that it gives you a much greater stretch. And so this is going to help with getting a loaded stretch, but also can help with muscle growth. With a reverse pull through, we're using the same grip as we do with a deadlift. Can go a little bit lighter on this exercise as well. We are hinging through the hip. So think about a slight bend in the knee and back nice and flat. I'm going to keep your head nice and neutral. And you're, again, just stabilizing through that upper body. So you're extending your arms, but you're really not trying to pull the weight with your arms. The weight is going to be pulled with those glutes and those hamstrings, and make sure that range of motion is good for you. So you want to stop before you feel your back starting to round, and you want to think about moving your entire body using just the hinge of your hips. All right, we're going to raise the cable up a few notches, and we're moving on to our next superset, which is a sumo squat with a single leg RDL. Now with this sumo squat, what we're going to do is we're going to go about 2 times shoulder width. We're going to go ahead and back up just a little bit as well. And I want you to think about using a weight that's heavier than you might normally use. And the reason for this is that on this exercise, I want you to think about not only coming up out of this squat, but also pulling back against the cable. And when we're talking about novel stimulus, this is going to give you a resistance that you just don't get with other pieces of equipment. Really important that you go heavy enough to allow yourself to be able to pull back against the cable here. toes are going to be pointed out, knees are going to be pointed out as well. You're going to take a wide stance here. You're going to keep your core tight. And as you squat down, keep that backward lean, keep your arms straight, and go ahead and pause slightly. Push the weight through the heel as you come up and backwards out of this squat. Okay, we're going to lighten up on our next exercise for those single leg RDLs, and I always recommend starting with your non-dominant side. This is an excellent exercise for working on balance, proprioception, which is body awareness, and for this, I am making sure that I keep my body basically in plank position and hinging with the hip on one side. So you almost want to think about your body as like a pendulum. So as you lower your upper body, your non-working leg is going to come up. So you want to think about maintaining that straight line. And also, you want to think about trying to, as well as you can, keeping your hips square to the floor. Really important, and also important that you're performing the exercise exactly the same from left to right. So really focus on that. If you have issues with balance, it can be helpful to look at a fixed spot. So if you're watching the cables, you're watching the plates moving up and down, that can really throw off your balance, believe it or not. So pick a point, focus on it, a non-moving point, and that should help a lot. All right, so we are moving on to our next superset, which is a front foot elevated split squat. We're going to go ahead and angle about 45 degrees, and we're going to superset with calf raises. Now, for this front foot elevated split squat, I want you to pick an angle that works well for you, whether it's 45 degrees with that foot from the cable, or about 90 degrees. So really experiment with that. And the arm that is closest to the cable, that's the one you're going to hold the weight with. Now, I love this exercise because it's going to place a lot of emphasis on the glute of that front leg. So you want to make sure that your focus internally or in your mind is using that front leg. So the back leg is simply there to spot, but try to not help yourself at all with that back leg. Try to work just with that front leg. And just like the other exercises, we're focused on pushing through the heel, focused on staying upright. So you don't want the weight to pull you to one side or the other. You're actively going to resist against this. You'll also get some core work out of this exercise, believe it or not, which is excellent, but you will feel this in your glutes. Now, as you switch sides, really important that you're paying attention to where that other foot was and that you're becoming a mirror image of what you did on the other side. So just keep mental track of where that foot is on either side. We're going to go ahead and make the weight a little bit heavier, and we're going to move on to calf raises. Now for that calf raise, you can lean back slightly against the weight, and you're going to spend a little bit more time in that mid-rep point, in that squeeze. So you're going to slowly lower your heels, and then you're going to not only raise your heels, but as you raise them up, you want to think about pushing them forward as well. This is going to give you extra good contraction on those calves. And you're just going to focus on using your left and right evenly. It's a bilateral, which means both legs exercise. So it can be a little bit tougher, but we want to make sure that we've got equal effort going into both sides here. Our last exercise is a reverse lunge, but we're going to elevate and we're going to alternate legs. So it takes a little bit of focus, but this is going to be more of a finisher type exercise. And as you try the weights, I would say go a little bit lighter here. We're going to go for higher reps. As you start the exercise, you're going to begin with one foot on the plate and you'll step back, working against the cables. And then you're going to simply switch sides. You're just going to go back and forth. And of course, any single leg or unilateral exercise, you just want to make sure that you keep track of the reps. So you're performing the same number of reps on each side. And for the lunge, similar rules apply as to squats. So as you take a step back, Really think about toes and knees being aligned, so don't allow your knee to cave in. And as you step back, the leg that's on, or the foot that is on that elevated plate, that's the one that is working. So your rear leg is simply there to help spot you. And so don't try to place as much weight on that. You're going to get a lot more out of the exercise if you perform it thinking about that elevated leg being the working leg. For best results for this workout, I would suggest trying to go as heavy as you safely can for the first 2 to 4 exercises. Your bigger compound movements are typically going to be the ones that burn the most calories and elicit the most changes in the larger muscles of the body, so you get more bang for your buck. As far as recovery in between each superset, you're looking at anywhere between 1 and 3 minutes. A good rule of thumb to think about with recovery: if your heart is still going, if you're still out of breath, chances are your cardiovascular system is going to be the limiting factor. And this is not what we want. We want those legs and the glutes to be the limiting factor in every single exercise. This way you're training the muscles and not necessarily training cardio. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know if you have any ideas or if there's anything that you want to see in the next video. That's it for this time. Until next time, thanks for watching. Train hard and train smart, y'all.